Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 712 to 713 for the 5th to the 6th of February. So the frontline changes report has been released on the DPA War channel already, so do check it out. I won't be repeating the same thing over here. And let's start off with the strategic and tactical reporting. So go on to the the border region between Russia and Ukraine over in the Kharkiv Front. There is multiple geolocation of Russians attacking the Ukrainian forces over the other side of the border. With FPV drones, airstrikes, and then airstrikes hitting particularly strong over at Vosyansk. The 3 different geolocation has been geolocated in Vosyansk, and this continues to put weight onto my theory that the Russians will eventually do one major offensive into Vosyansk to restart the Kupyansk Front. So we'll talk more about this in the future. And then there is also airstrikes hitting somewhere near Istrenkove, southeast of Vosyansk, and over on the eastern part, another airstrike. So this is a lot of airstrikes. So there's something to note. So we move on away from the Kharkiv Front to the Kupyansk Front. So this is the Kupyansk city, and this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, fighting over on the eastern part of the front line has basically died out. There's no more fighting over in this area where the Russian had some breakthrough. It looks like this is one hell of a diversion, away from the situation at Avdiivka. I'm not sure. It could be, but of course, or maybe the Russians are still busy trying to regroup themselves. The fighting only happened currently over at Sinkivka. Again, the fighting at Sinkivka is always been claimed by both defense ministries as the opposing side is actually attacking. So both say that the Russians or the Ukrainians are attacking. They're saying that the enemy is attacking. So this is a strategic situation over the Kupyansk Front. Is almost like nothing. And we move on away from the Kupyansk Front. There's nothing over the Siversk Front. We move into the Kreminna Front. So this is Kreminna City, and this is Kreminna Front. So at the Kreminna Front, there is multiple reports. So basically, the Russians are on the initiative over this front line, with fighting reported over at Terny, Yampolivka, Toske, Dibrova, and within the within the Siversk Forestry and towards the north of Krychorivka. Ukrainians are reported to be attacking towards Zilivka, which is here, and they are counter-attacking over Terny as well as Yampolivka. So this is the situation, the strategic situation over at Kreminna. Particularly, there is a breakthrough of the Russian forces over at the Terny and Yampolivka region, and I covered this over in the frontline changes report, with the Russian forces taking a lot of grounds over on the eastern part of Terny and Yampolivka. The Russians have made massive breakthroughs in this area here, and they are just, I would say, less than 2 kilometers away from the settlements themselves. So this is definitely another front line to watch. The Russians have been pushing really hard right now, so we will see how this goes. We move on to the Siversk Front. This is the Siversk Front, Siversk City, and a Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, the Russian forces continue their attack over at Bilohorivka. This is the only front line that we are seeing fighting. And there is geolocation of Russian forces over at the south of Vasily, or within Vasily itself. There is a FPV drone of the Ukrainian forces attacking Russian forces within the village. So which means that the Russians did try to put troops into Vasily itself, and but then this is going to be a very, very hard settlement to hold unless they are able to take the high grounds north of Vasily. So this is like a very lousily drawn BMW logo, and we move on into Bakhmut Front. So this is Bakhmut City, And this is the Bakhmut Front. At the Bakhmut Front, in the northern flank, we have fighting reported continue to be reported at Bodanivka. A lot of geolocation around Bodanivka itself. I think this one is this FPV drone, FPV drone, FPV drone, FPV drone. So these are all FPV drone attacks that is being geolocated uh, on the on by criminal caprice or military summary, and the Russians are pushing. So we shall see how this goes. There is no clear information about Russians are doing major assaults into the village just yet. So I believe it's still very positional. They are still preparing the ground for the assault. And there is also geolocation at Shasifia, also FPV drone attack. So it looks like the Russians are depending on the FPV drone mostly now over the past 24 to 48 hours in this frontline region. And so at Ivanivsky itself, there is some frontline changes. The Russian forces attack in the north, and then this is the Russians continue to put pressure on Ivanivsky. The Ukrainians are holding this line pretty well, but I think the Russians what they want to do is actually close up this area here, and to line up the entire front line along the edge of the city, so that when they attack, they have actually more vectors of attack, which will put a lot of pressure on the Ukrainian forces rather than concentrating all the fighting over at just one place. Then this will just make it much easier for the Ukrainians to defend. So let's see how this progress. We move on to, further south, in the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front. Ukrainian forces attack in the north of Klishchiivka or the southeast of Ivanivsky, and they also counterattack over at Klishchiivka region. The Russians are attacking in the Klishchiivka region at Andriivka as well as Kudyumivka. So this is the strategic situation over in the southern flank. There is no frontline changes noted in these areas here. So north of Klishchiivka, I did mention in the frontline report, the Russian claims that the Russian forces got pushed out of this area here. There is this some kind of entrenchment in this area. The Ukrainians attack and push out the Russians. However, heavy bombardments on the Ukrainian forces force the Ukrainians to actually withdraw away from this success. So this remains a gray zone right now in the north of Klishchiivka or the southeast of Ivanivsky. We will continue to monitor the situation. As you can see, Ivanivsky, southeast, sorry. And we move on over at the Niu-York Front. At the Niu-York Front, there is geolocation of Russian airstrike on Zalizny, and another Russian airstrike south of New York and south around Avdiivka region or north of Novoselivska. So these two airstrikes happens in this area here amidst Russian attacks towards Pivnishny as well as towards New York. I'm not sure if these attacks are something serious. Are they really serious about this assault, or is this just something probing, like a probing attack, just to distract the Ukrainians further away from Ivanivsky? From Avdiivka Front, because the current frontline attacks, the main offensive is currently over at Avdiivka. This is the front major attack that the Russians are pushing, and maybe these probing attacks may force the Ukrainians to still dedicate precious reserves into protecting the New York Front rather than pulling them into the Avdiivka Front or Avdiivka Front. We shall see how this progress. And talking about Avdiivka Front, this is the Avdiivka Front. This is the Avdiivka city. The Russian forces continue their Avdiivka offensive, fighting reported at Novobakhmutivka in the north of Avdiivka, towards Tonenke, at Povomaysky and Nevelsky. So these are the noted reports that talk about Avdiivka. Probably there's more fighting than this, but no, these are the reports that I see. Ukrainians counterattack over at Novokalinove. This is the only one that was noted that the Ukrainians are attacking. I believe this is an attempt to distract the Russians, to threaten the rear, so that the Russians will actually react to fight in the north, in the area where the Ukrainians have more comfort, rather than allowing the Russians to continue to put pressure on Avdiivka, which they are now struggling to hold the line. So there is geolocation of airstrikes within Avdiivka itself. as well as another failed Ukrainian attack in the south. There is a Bradley attack pushing into the southern neighborhood, and this attack failed. The Bradley hit a mine that was probably laid into the roads much later. So the Bradley wasn't expecting the mines to be there. So there is this geolocation, which also signifies that there is a Ukrainian attack in the south, but it was not reported by any of these OSIN reports, or the Defense Ministry reports. So and over at the Povomaysky region, Russians are still attacking in this area here, and there is geolocations of Russian forces attacking the Ukrainian stronghold east of Nevelsky. This is a stronghold over here. The Russians are sending armored vehicles to attack. This will remain as a gray zone in our future mapping, because there is no indication that the Russians have a entrenchment in this area here. It was just the armored vehicles going up to attack the Ukrainian positions. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting drone strike, showing the Ukrainians are actually in this position. So the front line along this area is becoming really clear due to the geolocations that we have seen over this area here in the Nevelsky region at the Avdiivka Front. We move into the Donetsk Front. This is the Donetsk Front at the Marinka sector. So this is the Marinka sector from Krasnohorivka all the way to Novomikhailivka. The Russians continue their offensive in this area here, with fighting reported towards Georgievka, towards Boyeda, towards Novomikhailivka in the north and in the east, and there is bombardment reported at Katerinivka, I think. Yeah, Katerinivka, correct. And so the Russian forces, there's this news, I would say is, you can call it a rumor for now, but the information did come from Ryba, that the Russians is now at the outskirts of the eastern part of Novomikhailivka. So they are in the first buildings over in the eastern part, but I cannot verify this just yet. Ukrainian forces is geolocated along this tree line that was FPV drones attacked, and there is also further Ukrainian forces geolocated further in, also attacked by FPV drones. And so the fighting currently is on the eastern edge of the settlement. It's unclear if the Russians will continue to really push through in serious terms, but the deep state did mention that the Russians are pushing in the north of Novomikhailivka in a serious way. So we shall continue to monitor the situation at Novomikhailivka. This might become the next focus point in terms of reporting if the situation continues to deteriorate in this area here. We move on over and the rest of the Donetsk Front. There is geolocation of Russian forces north of Mikhailsky, capturing, showing them holding ground that they previously do not have. So that signifies Russian capture. And Ukrainian forces are bombarded or airstriked within Voleda itself. The Russian forces are also continuing their attack over at the south of Zolotaneva, reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry in their morning report today. So the Russians attack again at Zolotaneva. This comes after some pause because it was not reported on the 5th. The last report was on the 3rd. So there's a 2-3 days rest, and then the Russians are now pushing again for Zolotaneva. So we shall wait and see how this progress. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front. So this is Zaporizhzhia city, and this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. Basically, this is the Oblast. This is Zaporizhzhia Oblast. And at the Velika Novosylka sector, this is the Velika Novosylka. At this sector over here, the Russian forces are still on the move in this area, with fighting reported at Uruzhaine, Staromayorsky. In the north of Prione, at Prione itself, Ukrainians are attacking at Prione. My arrows are very ugly. So the Russians attack over at Staromayorsky and Uruzhaine is positional in nature. The one in the north is a bit more serious, but the Ukrainians are pushing in a very deliberate way over at Prione. So the fighting over at Prione continues to be raging over here. And yeah, so that's about it over at the Velika Novosylka sector. Over at the Hoyapole sector, there is no fighting, but there is bombardments, FPV drones at Chivone, and airstrikes reported at Melanivka. So these two areas got hit, and I just want to highlight, as a defender, uh like if you are the Ukrainians in this position, you will be suspecting that the Russians are planning something. And these geolocations do, highlight that the Russians are trying to weaken the Ukrainians in these front lines, and we do not know if the Russians will decide to go on the offensive in these areas. Over at the Kharkiv sector, the Russian forces continue their attack in the Nestyanka region. They are also attacking Robotine, the west of Verbove as well. So this is generally it. Nestyanka has been fighting for some time already, 4th to 6th. We shall continue to monitor to see how the Nestyanka situation unfolds. So far, there is still no information other than the reports coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, or sorry, Russian Defense Ministry themselves. So we will have to wait and see if this will be reflected into some kind of frontline changes in the near future. So otherwise, there is geolocation of FPV drone attack of Ukrainian car along this highway from Novodanilivka or Kharkiv towards Robotine. And this is definitely not the first of such attack. There is already countless geolocation or videos of Ukrainian vehicles getting hit along this highway, because the Russians are just way too near to this highway, to be honest. And this is just a death trap to drive along this area here. Super dangerous to drive there. And over at the Kayamsky sector, this is Kayamsky, the Russians attack Petikaki again. So this is yet another probing attack in the Kayamsky sector. And yeah, it must be very hellish to be a Ukrainian commander right now. You really do not know how to deploy and allocate your resources if the Russians are hitting here and there all the time. And we move into the Kherson Front. So this is Kherson City, and this is Kherson Front. At the Kherson Front, there is fighting reported at Krinky. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry continue to report that Krinky is under attack by the Russian forces. There is geolocation of Russian forces getting hit by drones, I believe. Yeah, by drones just off Krinky. But within Krinky itself, the Russian airstrikes are reported. TOS-1A attacks reported thermobaric missiles. And another one is a flag. So okay, so I want to highlight this a little bit. So this is airstrike. This is thermobaric missiles. And now this is actually something not an attack. This is actually a Ukrainian flag. So I believe this is the geolocation of the Ukrainians planting a flag over here using an FPV. No, using a drone. So they fly a drone over here, they drop a Ukrainian flag and plant it right in the middle of the field, and call it a propaganda victory. And to be honest, the Ukrainian supporters really buy it. If you look at Deep State UA's narration about this this video of the Ukrainian flag, they say that the Russians always claim in their propaganda that Krinky is captured, but the 39th Marine Brigade shows they are not by throwing a flag over there. And so this plays against the Russian propaganda, so they are really happy about it by looking at it. And they call the Russian general Teplinsky a loser, and then heavy fighting still continues. So they are really proud about this geolocation. So we shall see how this goes about this flag planting, which I thought is kind of stupid, but yeah. So geolocation of Ukrainian Russian artillery hitting Antoniivka, north of Antoniivka Bridge. And I think that's about it. I don't think there's any more geolocation. Yep, that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 712 for the to 713 for the 5th to the 6th of February. Some conclusion. If you want to watch the full uninterrupted SITREP all the way from the frontline changes to the strategic tactical report to the conclusions, all in one video with no advertisement, do support DPA on Patreon, Locals, Boosty, YouTube membership, and coffee. Become a DPA Sergeant, Officer, and General, and you'll get access to a totally uninterrupted and no ads SITREP.